All right, let's talk about Arch Manning because we are, give or take, 12-ish hours removed from that game kicking off. And we've had a little bit of time for this dust to settle on how we feel about that. I'm sure as the week progresses, we'll have more emotions and thoughts and realizations about this. But Arch Manning did not look great against Ohio State. So what do we do with that? We'll break it all down right now. If you're a Texas Longhorn fan, probably a lot of emotions yourself after yesterday's game. Maybe you had yourself a good shower cry. Maybe you had yourself a little, we call it a bath meal around here. DoorDash something crazy. Sit down in a nice warm bubble bath and just kind of think about life. The sun rose today. It's a new week. Turn the page. It's San Jose State game week for those of y'all that celebrate game week on Sunday. So what do you do now? Again, make sure you're subscribed if you haven't already. We appreciate y'all being dialed in college football year round. Here's what I saw. At the most basic level, saw a dude who I still think is super talented, ton of physical gifts, and still rip it, still a great athlete, who quite frankly looked really tight. Looked really tight. Biggest game of his life. Massive spot with it being Ohio State on the road against a defense that is littered with NFL draft picks, most notably the best defensive player in college football and Caleb Downs playing safety with you. Did not play well. There's no way to sugarcoat that. What I want to do, though, is add context to this conversation around him not playing well. Because I think college football social media is going to run with this and say Arch played poorly. Therefore, Arch is not a good quarterback. Therefore, Texas can't accomplish X, Y, and Z. Therefore, the book is out on Texas. They aren't who we thought they might be. Arch isn't who we thought he could be. Let's move along with the rest of our lives in college football. I get where that comes from. I get where that thought comes from. But with what we saw from that game, I didn't leave that game thinking, man, just Arch isn't who we thought he was going to be physically. Like, man, Arch just, he doesn't have it. He can't do it. Again, I saw a dude who just upstairs looked really pressed, looked like he was dealing with a lot of pressure with maybe how he was viewing himself. Like, I don't know exactly what was going on upstairs, but I know it was a lot. And I know it looked like it was forcing him to have physical limitations, not because of what he has physically, but because of what he was looking like mentally. And this is a delicate conversation to approach because the expectations around Arch Manning, I think, were warranted. 5-star prospect. The last name invites a ton of conversation in and of itself. Anytime you got two NFL quarterbacks for uncles and your dad's Art, Cooper Manning, who could have been an NFL player, and then an Archie Manning's your granddad. Like, yeah, there's some extra discussion to be had. There's some extra intrigue there. But if Arch Manning had a different last name, would we judge him quite as harshly? I'm not saying I know the answer. I'm just saying sit with that for a second. Also, I think how you expected Arch to play in this game and how he played in the game and how you talk about him after the game, a lot of that has to do with your expectations ahead of time. Like if you thought Arch was going to go in and light it up and that was your definition on what he was going to be in this game, then he goes out and has the day he has where he goes 17 for 30, a touchdown, a pick, 170 yards. Like, yeah, you're going to be disappointed. Why? Because the expectation level versus what Arch Manning was were two very different things. Arch Manning was always Arch Manning. Arch Manning was always going to, based on how this whole thing played out, like that's the day he had. There's no changing that. So what was the filter you ran it through? Your own expectations. I'm not trying to give a pass here to Arch Manning. I'm just trying to give context. I also think we have to give the context of who this game was against. Like if Texas has got Akron on the schedule game one, no knock on the Zips. Our heart and soul's with you, Zips. But like understand Arch Manning probably goes 250, 300, 2 touchdowns out by the fourth quarter. It's probably how that goes. That wasn't the case, though. It's against Ohio State, and he has the day he has. I'm not trying to give an excuse. I'm just trying to give context for what we saw here. If Arch Manning goes out and plays a lesser opponent and balls out, then the narrative continues. Arch is the best thing since sliced bread. Last name's Manning. He's destined for greatness. And all those things still might be true. But for that to be your first game as the guy in Austin, Texas, going on the road against that team and that defense, like the learning curve there is very, very steep. If you want to talk about it in academic terms, this was a test that Arch Manning, quite frankly, I think failed. No way around it. Doesn't mean he has to fail the class. Doesn't mean Texas can't still go win the national championship. But Arch has got to figure it out and be better from this moment. And I think a lot of us, I can say for myself personally, that first test that I got in college rocked my world. Failed that thing. A lot of the classmates I had failed that thing. And after you fail a test, kind of creates a fork in the road moment for you, right? Are you going to become obsessed with the why you failed that test and then do everything in your power to make sure you don't feel that way again and reassess your preparation and reassess your study habits and move forward with the whole mindset of, okay, I got to make sure I never feel this way again and don't fail like this again? Or do you go, well, this, well, that, well, that's not responsible for me. Well, I'm not this. And then just you point to all the external stuff. I think if you were to draw up a support system for a quarterback after a game like this, it'd probably be Steve Sarkisian, the head coach. It'd probably be having 2 NFL quarterbacks as uncles. It'd probably be the camp that he has around him. Like, I don't know that it means that Arch is going to have wild success here in the future. I just think he has all the resources around him to make the most of what this was. Because I promise you, since this game has ended and since you're watching this video, I have to think within that time frame, there's a phone call that went towards Arch Manning's number, looks down, maybe it's Knoxville, I don't know where Peyton's at right now, somewhere in the state of Tennessee, I'd have to imagine. Looks at that thing and says, "Hey, Uncle Peyton." They talk about the game. I'll talk about how you handle failure. How do you handle the media? How do you handle yourself going into another week? He's got 3 games now in San Jose State, UTEP, and Sam Houston State, all at DKR. Get the confidence back right. You got a bye week. Then you go to Florida. For Arch Manning, it's about using this game, using the failures from this game, and being able to walk into another big spot because you got some more of them now at Florida. Red River is going to be massive. Can you mentally and emotionally and competitively be in a better place in those games because of what you didn't do in this game? That's the test. Because Texas is still massively talented. I don't see a bunch of holes in the line of scrimmage for Texas. I don't think the skill is, going to be a problem for Texas on the perimeter. Like, at the end of the day, can Arch up his level of play, learn from this, and be better going forward? You failed this test, didn't mean you have to fail the class. All right. So let's all just hold this open hands, allow this whole thing to progress. We're all talking about Lenore Sellers this year being potentially one of the best players in college football, one of the best quarterbacks in college football. His first start for South Carolina. So start 3 for Arch. Hear me clearly, but his first start for South Carolina was against Old Dominion, was a nice 114 yards through the air, 10 for 23. That's a good for 43% completion percentage. Things change from week to week. Things change from week 1 until November in college football. Let's allow them to. All right. Appreciate y'all being dialed in. For Caden Smith on the 1s and 2s, for myself, JD Pickell, we appreciate y'all. We love y'all. Let's all calm down a little bit. We'll keep this party rolling. We'll see y'all next time.